Welcome back everyone to Art in the Park 2022. This year we're taking a trip through parks around the world. This week we're in Africa at the Etosha Namib National Park in Namibia. Click on the link above to watch a short video that will tell you more about this incredible park. The supplies you'll need to complete this week's project are a recycled plastic container, some paper, colored pencils or markers, scissors, and glue. You'll be making a unique diorama that looks something like this. Step 1. Begin by finding your clear plastic container. Ideally, it would have a lid and an internal compartment. We're using a recycled lunch meat container that we washed out thoroughly, and we're going to trace that container. It's really important that we know the size of this container. That way we know how large to make our drawings that will fit on the outside and the inside of this container. And I've got a friend helping me today. You'll notice a set of small hands. Those belong to my daughter Isla. She's going to be doing a lot of our cutting and drawing today. Now that we've drawn the template outlines of our container, we're going to cut those into two different sheets of paper, as you see here. One of these will be our front and the other will be our back. Step 2. Now we need to choose what to draw. After watching the video, we decided on the desert elephant and a tall bird that you may have seen in the video, the flamingos. We decided to put those in our picture as well. So we started by sketching the elephant on the front, or the piece of paper that we decided would be the front for our diorama. And then on the background, or on the back picture, I'm making a sketch to include the flamingos. And so it's important that these two things not overlap one another, so I've kind of drew the elephant off to the right and the flamingo off to the left. Isla's going to come behind me and trace these out so you can see the lines and the shapes that she's using. The desert elephant has tusks. It is quite tall, and its ears, since it has to keep itself cool, are quite large as well. We used pencil to sketch everything out first. That way we could erase. And I used the image that was included earlier in the video as my reference. You may want to go back to that spot and pause that image if you're trying to draw an elephant as well. So Isla's just finishing up our elephant here. Later we'll cut this out and glue it onto the front of our diorama. But there's our elephant completed. Next, we'll work on the background. We're just using a dark marker to fill in all the areas of our background. That way it's easy to see. For our background, we chose to include a small water pond that the flamingos could stand in, and a large sand dune back behind them in the very distant background. If you remember those elements from the video, we did as well, and we felt that they were important to describe this landscape. So we chose to include both of those elements along with the flamingos. Okay, once the drawing on the foreground and the drawing in the background are complete, it's time to add some color. We're using our color pencils and markers and kind of looking at this in fast motion, just to show you how we added different elements in. We wanted to make sure that we didn't include things like extra green grass or green trees, because we have to remember where we're talking about. Namibia, southern Africa, especially in this desert area, is not known for its lush green grasses. Normally we would see more yellows and oranges and siennas and tan colors, so we try to stick with those. Step 3. Now that our backgrounds are finished, we can start cutting out elements of the foreground. Our foreground element is the elephant, and so slowly but surely I'm going to cut around the outside edge of this elephant, making sure not to cut off any tusks or any toes or any trunks. Once you cut out the general shape, then you can work back into the object and cut out the interior shapes, like between the legs or between the tusk, between the trunk and the legs, as you see here. Take your time. Once our elephant is cut out, you can kind of see how that's going to look in relationship to the background. But now we need to trim out the background to make sure it fits inside of our container. Yours may be a bit of a different size, but here's the trick that we're using. Once again, we're laying our container over the top of the piece of paper and tracing around the outside edge of it. So using it as a template, we see that the inside of our container is actually quite small, and so we're going to have to do a pretty good bit of trimming. So Isla's trimming all the way around the background. It's going to leave us with a rectangle that's kind of rounded on all sides, just because our sandwich package was shaped that way. And now you can see how the background fits into place. The elephant will be glued on the outside of the container in the foreground. Step 4. Putting everything together. Now that we've got our foreground elephant, our background, we need to glue our background area in place. So Isla's going to start by spreading some glue on the very back of our container there to glue that in place. Then we're going to put a coat of glue down along the bottom of our diorama and sprinkle in some of our soil that we found from outside. We tried to find rocky, gravel, sandy soils to match that of Africa. And finally, we're going to glue the foreground elephant on the outside of our diorama. So take your time, get a nice healthy amount of glue on the back of that elephant. We actually had to take a little glue off there and slide it into position. The final product should look something like this. Perhaps you chose different animals, and that's okay. We'd love to see your examples, and we appreciate you joining us for Art in the Park.